Welcome, everyone. My name is Annie Pocklington. I work for the Washington Student Achievement Council, which oversees the Washington State Gear Up grant at your school. Today, we are super excited to have Lake Washington Institute of Technology with us for another one of our virtual campus visits. So, of course, before we get started here, let me make sure I'm sharing my screen. Perfect. So before we get started, a few quick reminders. Please turn off your camera and keep it off if you are a student here and you haven't already done that. We also need you to change your name. So use your first and last name as well as your high school name so we can make sure we're taking attendance. If you don't know how to change your name in Zoom, don't worry about it for too long. Go ahead and just drop your name, your first name, last name, and high school into the chat, and I will make sure that your Gear Up coordinator knows you were here today. You are muted for recording purposes, so if you have a question today, please write it in the chat. Lake Washington Tech is only our second technical school, so I'm assuming you may have lots of questions. So make sure that if you are wondering something, it's a great time to ask. So go ahead and drop those questions into the chat for our guests to answer. If something comes up after this session, we're also happy to help you navigate that information. So please feel free to reach out to myself or to our guest. All right. This virtual visit series is set up for you to compare and contrast institutions based on your own personal needs. So as you definitely know at this point, we have tons of awesome institutions in Washington State, Lake Washington Tech being one of them, but students do attend different schools for different reasons. So make sure that you're thinking today about what you would like to study, what you want your daily life to look like, what housing options you need, and if you'd consider getting a job on or around campus. You'll also want to consider cost, financial aid opportunities, and anything else that's important to becoming your best self while attending college. So, as you know, personal reflection is of utmost importance when you're figuring out where you want to go to school. So make sure that you're taking notes of some variety today. You can find a guided reflection activity on our website. You can also explore all of the institutions across Washington State by checking out this interactive map by WACAN. So I'll make sure to drop both of those links in the chat once I pass things off to our guest, Casey. But first, a big picture overview of Lake Washington Institute of Technology so you can begin situating yourself in your reflection. Lake Washington Institute of Technology is located in Kirkland, Washington. It's just a short 20-minute drive from Seattle and about 4 hours from Spokane. Lake Washington Tech is a technical school, and it's what we would consider small to mid-sized, probably closer to mid-sized, with just under 4,000 students. So now that you know the basics, I am going to pass it off to Casey, our Lake Washington Institute of Technology expert. All right, go ahead, Casey.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'll just say thank you. That is probably the best intro / overview of a college and setting things up that I have seen all year. So that's super cool. Let me get my screen shared here real quick. Here we are. Okay. So my name is Casey Milner. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Development on the Outreach and Recruitment side for Lake Washington Institute of Technology. And this week is actually my 5-year anniversary at LW Tech. Prior to that, I actually worked for one of the large public universities in the state and did a lot of outreach recruitment for them, was their student ambassador while I attended school there. And so I like to think I have a pretty good understanding of really what the differences are. So if people do have questions about what it means to be at a technical college versus a Research One university, happy to speak from personal experience and kind of dive into what that is. One other housekeeping thing is I just want to say congratulations to everybody participating in something like this. This year is really, really strange. And I think the way that especially students have responded has just been incredible. I would not have been a very good student in this situation. This sort of setting is really difficult for me. And so congratulations, you're doing awesome, and really, really excited to see how you're able to carry these experiences into the future as we slowly start to get back to something that resembles normal. Oh, sorry, gotta click on the right screen here. Let me try that again. So at LW Tech, our mission is to prepare students for today's careers and tomorrow's opportunities. So to me, and I heard somebody say this to me once, they said, you know, LW Tech is the school for the people who learn by doing. We really focus on those hands-on technical skills that people need for jobs right now and to continue to grow and develop and adapt with the career fields that they choose. So one program that I like to use as an example of this is our diesel tech program. So right now we do a really good job of training people to be diesel technicians, working on semis, trucks, boats, planes, trains, you name it, on these large equipment, right? We teach students to get those technical hands-on skills now, but we also need to think about what is that industry going to look like in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? An example there is how are really these diesel mechanics going to have to change as we introduce more self-driving vehicles, as that technology changes. So we have to make sure people are ready now and to adapt later. We do it in a couple different ways. First of which is we really focus on that applied learning, that hands-on skills-based curriculum, and we build those in conjunction with local partnership. So we, even to give you an idea of how technical college curriculum is built, we have to work backwards a little bit. We have to prove that there are a certain number of jobs in the area. We have to work with local industry to prove that there's a certain skill set that somebody has to have to begin working for them. Then we build a curriculum around that skill set. Then we go to the state. Then we can tell the state, hey, we've worked with XYZ companies. We know that these are the skills students need. We know that with those skills, we can create jobs in a year and provide this many people to that industry. So we have to have that proof that students have a workforce outcome in their field. And I think a lot of our students really, really appreciate that. Second of all, we have 4-year options. We now have 10 bachelor degrees of applied science. We have transfer options for students. We know that especially here in the Pacific Northwest, to get that promotion, to get the raise, to continue growing in that career, at some point, you're likely to need a bachelor's degree. So we want to be able to offer students those still technical, still hands-on degrees at that 4-year level so they can continue building their portfolio or continue to build their skill sets. Lastly, we really believe in a community of belonging. We believe in an inclusive community where all students know and feel that they belong so that they can pursue their own success. We know that when a student feels like they belong, that they feel safe, when they feel welcome, that they're more successful in class, in the community, and then ultimately in their career. So that's something that we work really, really hard with. Just 2 weeks ago, we hired our first executive director of equity, diversity, inclusion. So now there's somebody who sits on the executive panel at the executive level of the college, and that's all they do is really work on, hey, how do we build this community of belonging for everybody here? So we have a lot of different areas of study. We've got over 40 programs now. As I was mentioned, we are in Kirkland along 405. We have 7 different schools that have different programs within them. It's a collection of programs. And we've got 4 programs that don't necessarily fit within any of those buckets. Things like culinary arts, baking arts, environmental horticulture, early childhood development. So unfortunately, we don't have a virtual tour. So do want to go through a couple of these programs. We have some photos of what you might see there. And I want you to keep in mind that all of the photos that you see actually come from our classrooms and labs. And so we'll talk about that and what that means a little bit. So the first example is our School of Engineering, Science, and Math. This is things like, but is not limited to, mechanical design, our engineering transfer, our innovation lab, which is a big maker space for any students on campus. And these are spaces where students are actually doing the work, right? It's that hands-on experience. So within mechanical design, our students are actually designing 3D components, blueprints, plans, like what you are able to see there. Then our students are able to work with engineering students. They can go to our innovation lab, they can go to our CNC machine shop, and they can actually create those components. So even in class, those students are getting to emulate that work environment where they're not only designing, but they're able to do some R&D work, right? They're able to do some prototyping. They're able to actually have that final product in their hand. Our School of Health Sciences has a lot of different programs. We've got about 14 programs in there. This is just an example of some of them. Things like our fitness program, where students become personal trainers, nutritionists, wellness coaches, medical assisting, nursing, dental hygiene, things like our funeral services program, occupational therapy assistant, physical therapy assistant, tons of different options in there. And as you can see, I think our dental hygiene, that photo is a good example. So I hope everybody can see that. We actually have a full clinic on campus. It's a dental clinic open to the public where they're actually working with patients. That's our students' classroom. So not only are they getting that academic experience that they need, but they're participating in industry. They're working with clients. They're giving back to the community. Our nursing program, if you are able to walk in there, it actually looks like a hospital floor. Our allied health building, where all these programs are located, is FEMA certified. So in the case of a large scale emergency or a natural disaster or anything like that, LW Tech could actually act as a triage hospital. So it was built to those same standards. And those are the classrooms, excuse me, where our students are learning. School of Manufacturing is things like welding, CNC machining, electronics technology. Within electronics is things like biomedical device assembly and technician work, which has just been a huge need, especially in these last 7 months. That's a program where in 6 months of training, 6 months of school, students are leaving and they can make $50,000 a year for 6 months of school with these really kind of technical hands-on programs. Photonics is the use of lasers and optics. That's the only field where everybody always says, right, oh, this is the next big thing. Photonics is the only one that I actually believe that about. That is useful in medicine, in transportation, in manufacturing, in communications. Agriculture is starting to use this in a lot of different areas, from their self-driving tractors and combines, all the way up through using lasers to measure soil density and soil composition. So really, really, really cool work with that one. Our culinary arts and baking program, my favorite programs, because I think with my stomach, are things like our culinary arts, our baking arts. We have a full restaurant on campus that's open to the public, a full bakery that's open to the campus. I'll actually be doing a live tour of the bakery tomorrow. So I'll actually be in there. If anybody is interested in that, lwtech.edu/baking or lwtech.edu/visit. You can sign up for that one, but we're super excited to go in and see. They're working on breads and pies coming up for Thanksgiving. So a lot of really cool examples. You can find more of that at lwtech.edu/academics is the easiest place to find all of those in one place. And within all of those, you're able to find a lot of different opportunities. We have high school diplomas. We have a full running START program on campus. We offer WANIC, which is the skills center in the area. We have Lake Washington Technical Academy. So for some students, LW Tech is their high school as well. So they're able to be working through everything at the same time. We have short certificates, we have the 2-year associate degrees, we have the 4-year bachelor degrees, we have direct transfer degrees where students are able to get their 2-year degree and then transfer into either a university or into any of our bachelor programs. Some of those include brand new programs in business and applied management and entrepreneurship, and a bachelor's in funeral service education. So we're the only school in the state, the only school in the Pacific Northwest that has a funeral service education program. That, just like the dental clinic, just like baking or culinary, that's a fully functioning funeral services home where they're actually working with clients, they're working with families, friends who have lost loved ones. They're learning what that actually looks like, and they're operating out of LW Tech. That keeps costs down. So funerals are really expensive, right? So our students actually get to work with people who might not otherwise be able to provide that opportunity for loved ones. So I think that's a really, really cool experience for students. Other options at the 4-year level: behavioral healthcare, design, digital gaming, and interactive media. It's one of the only 4-year public programs with a digital gaming program there. Dental hygiene, early childhood development, computer and software development, public health, which has become a major, major issue this year. The program has a pretty substantial wait list for the first time in several years after everything happening now. And transportation, logistics, and supply chain management, which is really the science of how do you get products and materials from point A to point B. So another thing while we're all remote, which has become severely important. We have a lot of different support services at a smaller technical college, which I think are really, really important. One of the big things here is our classes are never more than 25 students. So that creates that opportunity for you to be in a class with an instructor, with that small classroom, with people who can really help you. Our classes right now are a little bit different, where anything that can be online is online. your English, your math, your sciences, certain business classes, things like that. Any of our programs that require that hands-on training, they're still on campus and they're still meeting. We have really strict social distancing practices in place. We do health screenings every day. Students have to sign a agreement at the beginning of the quarter saying that daily they'll go through a self-assessment before they even come to campus, just to make sure that they're feeling well, that they're feeling healthy. And that's been going really, really well for us. So we're really excited that we can still practice some of these safety measures, and people can still get this education that they need, right? At some point in the next several months, year and a half, we're going to start getting back to something that resembles normal, right? So these students who are in class now, they are going to go out and get those jobs. And as soon as our country and our world get back to normal, we want our students to be ready. So we're really, really happy that we can provide that resource to them. Our workforce development program offers a lot of different resources and funding for people who might have been laid off, might be receiving food stamps, maybe they are recently out of the armed services. So that's a great resource. Disability support services is for people with any sort of documented disability. TRIO grant is a federal program for people who are low income or first generation college or have a documented disability. We have a large veterans population on campus. Those skill sets tend to translate really well for folks coming from the military who have gotten that training, who have had their jobs, who have had their assignments, tend to be able to translate that to civilian life pretty well. Free tutoring for all students on campus in all of our different programs, an employment resource center for students to work on resumes, practice mock interviews. We have an online job board where companies will post jobs specifically for our students. You know, the job of a technical college, our job is to get students jobs. So I think that this employment resource center really is at the heart of all that. We have an early learning center on campus for folks who either have kids or people who want to learn to work in that environment. So that's one of our programs on campus for students. And lastly, our RISE centers, the resources for inclusion, support, and equity. So that's our multicultural center, our diversity center on campus that really, really focuses on creating that experience for students on campus. So I think this is a really big one. Affordability of a public technical college versus other options. A 2-year program at LW Tech costs a little over $14,000 on average. This is going to change a little bit based off what program you're in, what tools you have to get. You know, something like welding, they are physically burning through their class materials, right? With their gas, with their metals, with their materials. So there might be some extra costs there. Dental, their little picks and their little tools are actually some of the more expensive tools on campus, which I was shocked to find out. So that number fluctuates a little bit, but overall, 2 years, $14,000, and you leave with the associate's degree. I also said that some of those programs have shorter certificates. Those all stack. So you might be able to leave with 2, 3, 4 pieces of paper in that 2-year time frame for $14,000. 1 year at a public university. Okay, I took all 6 public universities, found their total. I'm a proud Coug. I wish I could just put the number for UW up there and scare everybody away, right? But did want to be fair with that one. And so 1 year on average, and all of these schools are within about $1,000 of each other. They all cost over $25,000 for 1 year. Okay, so you can get your 2-year degree that has a workforce outcome at LW Tech for about half the cost of 1 year at a public university. There's a lot of things that you're going to find at universities that you won't find at LW Tech. We don't have sports, we don't have dorms, we don't have, you know, a couple of things like that. So the benefit is you're not paying for those things, right? You are there for the skill set and for the knowledge that you want. Some students really want that student experience. So that's just something to think about. At the beginning, you know, one of the questions was, what's important to you? What are you looking for in academics? What are you looking for in that student life? So that's something to consider. The technical college is not the right fit for everybody. I'll be the first to say that. On the other hand, I'll also say the university is not the best fit for everybody. I told you earlier that one student once said that, you know, LW Tech is the school for people who learn by doing. That was my twin brother. After he failed out of a university, he never did well in a traditional classroom setting with taking notes, taking tests. He's very, very ADHD. So he needed that really hands-on sort of tactile learning. Came to LW Tech after failing out of a university in his senior year. Came back, went through the digital gaming program, ended up graduating with a 3.8 because he found that place that really met his learning style. So like I said, I love the university setting. That worked really, really well for me. My twin brother, who's a lot like me, didn't work for him at all. So you just have to find that place that's the best fit for you. A couple different ways to pay for college, and I'm sure that this is something that you're going to talk about a lot, so I don't want to spend a ton of time here. FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. WASFA is the Washington State equivalent, the Washington State financial aid. Make sure that you're applying for at least one of these. You can apply for one or the other. FAFSA has a couple more guidelines on who can qualify for that sort of thing. Washington State financial to more people and has fewer restrictions, including people who might have dreamer status, DACA, anything like that. So make sure you're just talking to either your advisors through this program, talking to your advisors at a college, and just finding out what fits your situation best. Our job as a community college, in addition to getting you a job, is to help you pay for school. We believe in access to a education, regardless of background, regardless of where you're coming from, and regardless of where you are. So we really want to help with that. Big part of that is scholarships. If you don't hear anything else today, and I know that most people in this program are probably about sophomores in high school. If you don't hear anything else, please, 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 wherever you go, apply for scholarships. What we see happen a lot, especially at the community and technical college level, is people think that you need either the 4.0 or you need the personal statement about, overcoming all these barriers and how you've persisted and all that, right? I think those are really common, unfortunately, common stereotypes about the scholarship program. What we end up finding, not only at LW Tech, but at most of the community colleges and technical colleges in the state, is that because of those, we don't get enough people to even apply. We have money left over at the end of the year. I've talked to a lot of other colleges, and we all have this same program where there's just not enough applicants. This year was a little bit different. A lot of people had to apply for emergency grants, emergency funding, that sort of thing. But in the coming years, especially as you're looking for those options, just know that unfortunately scholarships kind of fly under the radar. So if you hear nothing else, apply for scholarships when you're ready to go. So application is really, really simple. All you have to do is apply. lwtech.edu/get started or lwtech.edu/apply. Fill out the application, it's free. We don't need high school transcripts. We don't need placement tests. We don't need ACT, SAT. We don't need personal statements. It's a 15-minute application. You hit submit, you'll get an acceptance letter a couple days later. Like I said, our job is to provide access to an education. We still might need some placement options later, just to figure out where to start in math and English. So it's never a matter of if you can start, it's just a matter of where. Are we starting in calculus? Do we need to start with geometry, right? Do we start with English 101? Do we need to start with English 99? So it's never ever a matter of do you have the grades? It's a matter of what are your grades? So where can you start? So that's all we're looking for there. There may be some selective admissions programs that have additional requirements, but typically that's our bachelor programs and a couple health science programs that have industry related certificates or health guidelines and things like that. After you have applied and gotten your ID number and you have those placement options, you can meet with your advisor. They will build an academic plan. They'll help you register and they'll get you set up to get started. After that, all you have to do is start and make sure you submit that financial aid because that one's so important. So that is all I have. I know that was a lot of information really, really quickly. I know that you can type some questions into the chat and I'm really happy to help out with that. If you do have any questions, please send me an email or give me a call and I'm happy to help with whatever we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Casey. It doesn't look like we have any questions in the chat right now, but I will just kind of wrap this up. And if you do have any questions, please take this time to drop them in the chat now so we can make sure to answer them. Otherwise, please, like Casey said, feel free to reach out to him or to myself so we can get you the information that you need. A big thank you to Lake Washington Tech for all of the information. I think this is just a great reminder that if you are a student who is looking for a hands-on experience, Lake Washington Tech is a great institution to check out. So dive into their website, reach out to Casey, do whatever you can now to just kind of figure out how you would fit into Lake Washington Tech as a student, and make sure that your needs could be met there. A lot of great opportunities. So again, thank you to Lake Washington Tech. Thank you, Casey, for being here with us this afternoon. And otherwise, we will see you all on Thursday for our next virtual visit. So thanks again. Reach out to Casey or I if you have. Go ahead.
Can I jump in? Somebody did send a question privately, so if I can just speak to that one for just a second.
Please.
Yeah, so the question was, can you talk about tuition, cost, programs, that sort of thing? Just to talk, so overall that cost for the 2-year program was about that $14,000, right? So just to give folks an idea of how that breaks down, typically we're a quarter-based school. So quarter to quarter, students are going to look at, again, based off the program, in between about $1,600 and $1,800 per quarter. So something like a business technology degree, right? Where you're really learning database work, where you're learning the Microsoft suite, you're learning some more of those kind of management styles. Very few additional costs. The software is pretty cheap and pretty accessible, right? So that you're probably going to be leaning more towards that $1,600 a quarter. Something like welding, where there are just more costs involved with the program, the cost of your gas, the cost of that physical materials, aluminum, steel, titanium, whatever it might be. Those are probably going to lean more towards that $1,800 per quarter. Tuition's always due the first day of class, but there are also means where you can create payment plans to pay monthly, a lot of resources with scholarships, a lot of resources with financial aid. So a lot of information to cover and a lot of details we could get into, but that hopefully just gives you a little bit of an idea of what that looks like.
Awesome. Thanks, Casey. Yeah, and just a reminder for students that the price tag that we see on an institution is just a general price tag. It doesn't take your own situation into account. So if you've applied for financial aid, whether that's through the FAFSA or the WASPA, or if you have different scholarships, those don't, the ticket price looks different than considering your specific situation. So don't discount anything until you've submitted that financial aid application, you've seen what your financial aid award looks like, and then you can make a better decision. So oftentimes that looks like applying to a few different schools, applying to financial aid, and then assessing your award letters sometime during your senior year so you can make the best decision for you based off what your financial aid package looks like. So thank you, Casey, for that overview. That was really great. Any other questions do you have that came through?
Nope, that's the only one I see.
All right, awesome. Cool. Well, thank you all again for being here. A huge thank you to Casey, and we will see you next time. So thanks again, all.
Thank you for having me today. Really appreciate it.